Show me the money. If you are wanting to launch an influencer startup, this video is for you because today we're going to talk about how you build a money model to go along with your personal brand platform for social media or any kind of content media. I'm John The EntreProfessor. I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'm a content creator, and I teach entrepreneurship at a leading university. This week, I'm working on part number 4 of the process for developing an influencer startup. And part 4 is monetization. That's building that money model. We're also going to take a look at content development, and I'm going to break down Gary Vaynerchuk's 6-part content development model. That's going to really show us how you're creating content that people want to watch and how you're connecting that to a money model that's going to allow you to do it in a sustainable way. So let's get into it. You may be wondering, why am I standing in the kitchen? Every week I cook dinner for the class because we get together for 3 hours in the evening. And so I want to make sure everyone has something to eat. And so I prepare a meal ahead of time. This is also a great opportunity to talk about what the class is going to be about today. Today it's going to be about developing great content, and it's going to be about building that money model. And so we're going to dive in. But also, as part of developing content, we're going to talk about storytelling this week because the class is going to have a guest speaker who's going to talk about strategic storytelling. And so they're going to have that opportunity to work through some of that content. And so I'm going to just give a couple of highlights there as well. So you're going to want to watch all the way through to get all this good content. But let's start with content development. Gary Vaynerchuk wrote the book Day Trading Attention and offers a 6-part framework for developing great content that can ultimately drive your money model. So let's walk through it. In the meantime, I'm going to be creating what's called the best lentil soup recipe. I've adapted this recipe from a website called Cookie and Kate, and they call it the best lentil soup recipe. I've had it a number of times. I think it's really good. I hope everyone's going to enjoy it. And so while we're talking through the content this week, I'm going to be making this lentil soup. So with that, let's dive into Gary Vaynerchuk's 6-part content development model. And while we're doing that, I'm going to chop up some carrots and some onions and get us rolling. So with the 6-part model, and it's helpful to see a visual of this. So I'll show this on the screen. It's also available in a number of places online. You can see it in the book, or you can see it in different online sites. But essentially what Gary Vaynerchuk does is he starts to talk about what it is that you need to do when you're creating content to really look at it holistically. So I'll start with the first one, which is cohort development. So one of the things Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, and this is also something you see in a lot of other models, Sean Cannell from Think Media talks about niching down or niching down. Really getting specific of who that perfect customer is, or that ideal customer profile. In this course, I like to call them the ideal viewer profile. What Gary Vaynerchuk says is you really want to develop that cohort into what he calls cohorts with teeth. So very, very specific group of people that have something in common, and they're likely to really relate to the type of content that you're creating. So this is where you want to get really specific, not just demographics about how old someone is or their gender or where they live or those kinds of things, but you want to zoom in on what do they really value, what are they excited about, what are they really into, to the point that they're going to maybe talk to their friends about it, or they're going to get really excited about it when the topic comes up. So this cohort development is really about finding that ideal group of people that share a common mindset, values, beliefs, interests, excitement about a particular topic, to the point that they're going to really see themselves in the content that you're creating. The second part of this framework, Gary Vee talks about strategic organic content. So this is creating content that's uniquely you, that is authentic, that is perhaps something that's just, unique or fun, or that really speaks to the audience. And I like Donald Miller's approach to marketing, and you've probably heard his famous book, Story Brand, talks about make your conversation about the customer, not about you. So you're not talking about yourself, your product, your service, what you do, so much as you're talking about this cohort that you've developed. So it's really for them, it's about them, and so on. And the organic part is really, it's not something that's overly developed or overly polished. These are things that are just kind of authentic, and may even be just chronicling something you're doing, like doing a cooking show while you're building a class. Building in public, a lot of times is an expression you will hear used. Gary Vee talks a lot about this, is like, just share your journey while you're along the way, and creating that organic content is going to help people feel connected to what you're doing, and also, want to learn more, want to get more involved. And it may even become part of their identity if you're able to create a community that they want to be part of and that they feel a connection to as they're watching your content. The third part of Gary Vee's framework is a platform and culture. And so this is where you start to talk about what channel are you actually creating content for, because that platform will have a culture. If you're creating content for TikTok or Instagram, there's a certain culture that is just the kinds of content that people create on that channel, what people are used to seeing on that channel. It's also, things that features of the channel, what the channel itself really prioritizes in terms of its algorithm, and the kind of content that they're hoping people will create, the kind that they'll prioritize and put in front of more people. So the more you understand the culture of a platform, the more you understand what is normal for the platform, what some of the features are, how to take advantage of those features, how to create content that really fits in with that audience and the channel which they're watching and viewing your content in. That's going to be the best way to make sure that your content gets in front of lots of people that will hopefully have an interest in it. And the algorithms are designed to match up the content that you're creating and posting with people that are going to appreciate it, understand it, and enjoy it. The fourth part of the framework is amplification. And amplification is really where you're going to try to take your message and really make sure that it has a voice. So this is where you're going to do the things like create the great thumbnails and create the descriptions and create the titles that are going to draw people in to view the content. For some platforms, you have to be very quick about getting the message out quickly so that people stay with you. Platforms like TikTok will often get a very quick swipe away if there's not something in the first few seconds that get people excited about it. So amplification is really about making sure that message is spread more widely, and the more engagement you have, the more amplification you have. And so this is an important part of the framework for once you have that strategic organic content, it's aligned with the platform and culture, that you're presenting it in a way that is pushed out to more and more people, because the content is very clear about who it's for and what it will do for them. Number 5 in Gary Vee's framework is creating content that people want to watch. And I know this sounds kind of obvious, but a lot of times your data is going to tell you things about whether people are watching content, how much they're watching it, how long they're watching it. Are they staying with you for a length of time, or are they tuning it out pretty quickly? So it's really figuring out what it is that people want to watch. And part of doing that is following trends, really understanding the audience. What do they care about? What are they concerned about? What problems are they facing? These are the kind of things that can really help to make sure that you're creating content that people are going to view enough that it triggers the algorithm. It's going to be that there's enough interest and attention drawn to it that makes it worth your time, and make sure your content has a voice among the people that are going to value it most. So part of it is understanding what it is that your customers look for on the platform that you're on. If they're on TikTok or Instagram or platforms like that, they may be looking more for entertainment. But if they're going to YouTube, they're maybe asking a specific question and they're looking for learning and knowledge and education. And so creating videos people want to watch is oftentimes about asking questions, putting polls out, looking at other content that's similar and seeing what it is that people are drawn to, so that you're creating that content that people want to watch. And then the sixth part of Gary Vee's framework is what Gary calls post-creative strategy. So this is where once you've created a particular piece of content, what are you going to do with it to get the most out of it? So once you've created a single video, it may be that there are lots of opportunities to place that same piece of content in multiple places or in different ways that's useful. So whether it's taking a long form video and turning it into short form, whether it's taking video content and turning it into podcast or audio content, or maybe written content, posts for social media, or maybe a Substack channel or article. So these are just different ways that you can develop a strategy for taking the content once you've created it and making sure that it's getting to the people that you want to see it in many, many different ways. It's also a matter of efficiency. It's building content that you can use many ways in many different places and different formats that align with the platform and culture of the different channels that you use. And it's really taking that strategic organic content and making sure you get lots of mileage from it. So that just gives us a starting point on creating content following Gary V's framework. And I put some images out so you can see what this looks like and how these things all interact with each other, because there's really a lot of different connection points which he illustrates. But next we're going to get into storytelling. But first, I'm going to get started with the lentil soup. And one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to cook these onions and carrots in a kind of normal Dutch oven style pot. This one I'm using is from Our Place Cookware. They do not sponsor me. I'm not being funded by them in any way. But I would very much welcome that. And one of the money models that we talk about is getting sponsorship. So if you work for that company, please give me a call. I'd love to talk with you about showcasing and highlighting your products on my videos. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cook these up a little bit. Later, I'm actually going to do this in a crock pot in a slow cooker. But this first part I'm going to do right on the stove to make sure that these are ready. They're going to go into the crock pot along with the lentils and some of the spices and broth and everything else to make this work. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some olive oil into the pan, and it's actually going to seem like a lot of olive oil, but what it's going to do is it's going to really tenderize the vegetables. It's also going to give a richness to the whole soup later when there's a lot more in it. So I'm actually going to use a half a cup of olive oil. So I know that seems like a lot, and it'll really look like a lot when we pour it out here, but it will work well when we spread it out and mix it through these vegetables. And again, these are going to be the base, and everything else is going to be added into this. So we'll start out with that half cup of olive oil, and we're going to pour that in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour that all the way around here. I want to make sure I just cover the whole bottom, and obviously that's going to kind of set into place there. Move that around. All right, and then put all these carrots. One thing with this Our Place cookware, they come with a really nice wooden spoons and spatulas and everything so you don't scratch it. The lining itself is not a polymer. It doesn't have any of the kind of bad chemicals, the PTFEs and all the things that I don't even know what they are, but they sound terrible and they're really bad for us. It doesn't have any of that. It's more like a porcelain type lining. The outer edges, the pot handle on top is, will keep everything cool, but the pot itself gets hot, and even these things on the side, so you kind of have to be careful. But it's worth it whenever you're you're getting a healthier cook. And they clean up really well. Like it's no stick, but at the same time, it doesn't have the typical polymers it uses to get there. All right, so we're gonna mix those in with the oil and get those cooking while we talk about storytelling. So this week we're going to be talking a lot about storytelling as part of content development. We have an expert guest speaker coming in to do a workshop with the group. His name is Matt Zahn. He does stories with traction, and in particular, he helps to create what's called a story bank. And this is really a collection of stories that are ready to be told, but not just a story that's interesting to hear, but that has a really clear message that really resonates with an audience or with those that would hear the message. And ultimately, a good story can have lots of different frameworks and structures, but one that really works well, particularly for those that are developing stories with intentionality for the first time, is that simple story. We start with a hero, and the hero shouldn't be you. The hero should be your customer. This is where Donald Miller in Story Brands talks about make the customer your hero. And so you want to talk about that customer, that cohort with teeth, as Gary V called it, and you want to start to tell a story about someone that's really operating kind of in an ordinary life. They're an ordinary existence. They're doing their thing. An ordinary person. There's nothing special about them, but maybe they're dealing with a problem, right? So the second part is some kind of startling change. Something that they encounter starts to really invoke a new situation for them. And maybe it is the problem itself, or maybe it is their first encounter with your solution to the problem that they've been dealing with. But the third part of the framework then is a transformed world. Once they've experienced what you're able to bring them or kind of come alongside them and offer as a mentor, or a provider, it's going to transform their world in ways that it's unrecognizable what it was before and immeasurably better. So that's where with content development, being able to tell good stories are such an important part to creating the content that's going to connect the dots for your specific customer. Let's go ahead and finish stirring up these vegetables and move on to the next part. All right, these are looking good. All right, I don't need to get those cooked all the way through because they're gonna go into a slow cooker, so we're good there. But the next part, we really wanna get into monetization. And for an influencer startup, there are so many ways that you can monetize your media presence, your following, and the things that you're doing. And you may be thinking, you know what, I'm not all about the money. I'm not about like being rich and famous and having all these great things. Wouldn't be bad, but that's not really my cup of tea, and that's okay. But if you're gonna have a successful influencer startup, you have to have a money model that gives you enough fuel to keep the engine running. So you need to be able to pay yourself enough to make it worth your time so that you have the freedom and the space to create. And at the same time, you may wanna bring others along. You may wanna build a team, and you may wanna use better equipment. You may wanna do different things to improve the quality of the content you're creating. That all takes fuel, and so revenue is what becomes that fuel. So before we get into that in more detail, I'm actually going to walk through 7 popular ways. I'm actually going to walk through 7 ways that you can monetize as a creator, and there are lots more, but I'll walk through 7 that are really useful for a lot of people. But first, let's finish a couple more things with the lentil soup. Everything we do from here can go right into the crock pot. So I'm just gonna prepare it right into the crock pot. We're gonna cook this on low heat for 4 to 6 hours. So it's gonna have plenty of time to cook the lentils and really mix everything together. And so it makes it easy now. Everything can go right in here. So we're gonna start with 8 cloves of garlic, which sounds like a lot, but this is gonna be for a lot of people. So I wanna make sure we have plenty to give it the flavor that we want. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and put our 8 cloves of garlic in one at a time here. All right, those are coming out nicely. One more. Okay, so here's the last one. So we got 8 cloves of garlic in all. Now we're ready to add some more of the other spices. So now we want cumin, thyme, and curry powder. All right, so we need 4 teaspoons of ground cumin. I'm gonna do a tablespoon plus a teaspoon. There we go. 2 teaspoons of curry powder. So let's go ahead and get that, 2 teaspoons. Then 1 teaspoon of thyme. Next, we're ready to add some tomatoes, and we're gonna use 2 cans of diced tomatoes. I've got Muir Glen Organic, so we're gonna open those up and dump those right in here and mix them in. Still looking for a good can opener. If anybody knows of one, throw some comments down below. I definitely wanna find one that works a little better than this one. It does get the job done, but it definitely takes some lining up at the beginning to get it started. So now we've got some diced tomatoes. So go ahead and dump those in, along with the spices. All right, bend that in. Can safety, very important. And then do the second one. 28 cans. These are 28 ounce cans of diced tomatoes. So there's lots of tomato in this one. We're now ready for the lentils. So it's 2 cups of lentils. So a bag has about 2 cups. So we're gonna use the Goya lentils here. And it looks like 16 ounces. So we'll go ahead and dump those in. And those are gonna, between the juices from the tomatoes, as well as the oil from cooking the vegetables, and we're gonna use a vegetable broth here. That's going to really boil those lentils and make them nice and soft and tasty. Last, we're gonna add some vegetable broth here. We wanna put in 4 cups. So I've got Progresso vegetable broth. We're gonna go, it's a 2 cup measure, so we'll think a whole canister will get us 4 cups, but we're gonna check and make sure. Always wanna check your KPIs and data. Do that here. There's 2. That's gonna give us 2 more, so that'll give us 4 cups in all. Perfect. So go ahead and pour those in. Okay, now I'm just gonna mix that all together. So we've got the spices, we've got the tomatoes, we've got the lentils. I'm gonna mix those all together, so they'll cook together whenever we run the slow cooker. So while we're stirring this up, let's talk about money models. So we've talked about that at least a bit through each of the videos in this series, and it's something we talk about each week in the class. And what we really want to think about here is not just creating content and not just having a money model, but the intersection between the two. How do we create content that actually connects viewers to the money model in some way? So let me walk through 7 very useful money models that can be very effective when you're building an influencer startup. The first one is probably pretty obvious. It's platform monetization. Some of the platforms actually pay you for content. So particularly YouTube and TikTok and some others will actually pay you if you're creating content that's getting lots of views. The main thing here is, and anyone who's explored this at all knows, particularly those that have been content creators, the monetization from the platform is nice to have, but it's usually, even with a lot of views, with a lot of attention, with a lot of watch time, it's not as valuable as other money models can be. So it can be a good place to start. It's usually that you have to get to a certain point before the platforms will monetize your channel and start to pay you AdSense or whatever those kind of money mechanisms are. But it's a good indicator that you're building something that's developing a following. It's a good start for your money model. Number 2, brand deals. And we've talked about this a bit. I joked about the Our Place Cookware team hopefully seeing my videos and wanting to sponsor me as a cooking show creator. It probably will never happen, but if I did have a large following that was particularly interested in my cooking, hopefully my entrepreneurship and my entrepreneurial skills and content are what's really of interest. But if it were a cooking show and that were the focus, a brand deal with companies like Our Place Cookware would be a good way to have money coming in and at the same time be creating content that's along the lines of what I want. And I'd say using products you believe in, you like, are really key in that case. A third type of monetization model are affiliate links. And last week in the class, we talked a lot about affiliate links. We had an expert come in. It was Melissa Haran came and talked about how she helps some of the top influencers in the world to connect the content they're creating with some kind of money model. So those that have maybe a fashion or cosmetics brand may sell products and have affiliate links to products that they promote and believe in and use and talk about in their content. Other affiliate links include things like Amazon, where it may be any type of product. It could be technology, it could be storage containers, or it could be efficiency tools, anything like that, where you can point to an Amazon link and you get the affiliate link revenue that way. Even more directly, you can have your own products and services. If you're able to create your own products, your own services that relate to the things that you create content for, that relate to your audience, can be a good way to just connect them to the product or service that you already have. And you're making your money in a sense by bringing them to that. It could be a coaching product, or it could be online courses, or it could be a physical product that you're talking about. That could be a clothing line. It could be anything like that, that it's a product that you make, that you promote, that you sell, and you can connect them to it. Another one is digital products, and this could be a product that you create as well, or products that you kind of sell on behalf of others. But these can be downloads, could be ebooks, could be access to databases or content. These kinds of digital products can be very useful, and they can be very valuable, and they can be easy to sell because even the delivery mechanism is very straightforward. The 6th way that you can make money is through subscription-based products. So Patreon pages are set up where people pay a monthly subscription, or you may have a community or a limited access club or a set of data or content that people can access through a subscription. Subscription models are great because they start to generate what's called MRR, monthly recurring revenue, or ARR, annual recurring revenue. And by getting subscribers that are continually getting value from the content that you have, or the access or community that you provide on a subscription basis, that can be a really powerful way to connect your money model in ways that bring additional value to your viewers. And of course, a 7th way is merch. Once you have a brand that people recognize, that they're interested in, that they value, they may want to represent your brand for you. It may be something that helps them to show to others that they're part of the kind of the club that you've created or that surrounds what you do. And so these merch products can be not only a product that you can sell and make money on, but it actually promotes you to those that your viewers and your audience knows and that are maybe like them or like-minded, that may want to one day become part of your community. Okay, only a few things left to add to our soup. Next, I want to add water, and we're going to add 4 cups of water here. I've already pre-measured, so I'm going to go ahead and mix that in. That's going to really make it more of a soup and less of like a stew. And we want to add some salt, and that's really just to taste. So I'm going to just do maybe about a teaspoon and a half here of salt, maybe not put all that in. And I can always add some later. So once it gets close, I'll test it and make sure that it's the right level, and I can add some salt. Finally, I want to add some pepper flakes. Not a whole lot here, just actually a little bit less than a teaspoon, maybe about maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon. Give that a little bit of zip, but probably not a whole lot. And then a little bit of pepper, again, about half a teaspoon here. And so that'll give it a little bit of spice, but again, not really trying to make this a super spicy dish by any stretch. The last thing that will happen is that we're gonna add some greens. I'm gonna be using spinach and arugula. I've got a little bit of baby arugula, spinach mix here from Market Side, USDA organic. About the last 5 to 10 minutes. So I want them to wilt a little bit and to kind of move throughout, but I don't want them to be, totally overcooked. And so they're gonna go in here. So the last step now is gonna be to add in the carrots and the onion mixture that I made. The pan has had some time to cool, so I was able to just pick it up. The side handles here get a little bit hot, so I usually use these little cuffs that keep it cool, but in this case, that's gonna be fine there just as it is. Mix that in. All right, that's looking good. It's all ready to go now. I'll just stir that up a little bit, mix everything together. That'll probably sit in the slow cooker on low for 4 to 6 hours, and then I'll add in that spinach at the end, kind of add in the greens and kind of mix them in. That'll give it a little bit of a vegetable as well to go along with the carrots and the onions. So that brings us to the end of part 4 in the 7-part process of building an influencer startup. Monetization. We looked at 7 different money models, and we also looked at how we specifically are going to connect those money models to the content that you're creating. And that content is going to really follow as much as you can things like Gary V's 6-part framework around, really getting clear on who your cohort is, developing that strategic organic content, aligning to the platform and cultures of the channels that you're using, amplifying that content as many ways as you can, and then creating videos and content that people want to watch. And then finally, bringing that to that post-creative strategy that allows you to use all of that content in many different ways to reach your audience through different channels. And finally, telling stories in those ways that really impact people in an emotional way and really help connect the individual, your viewer, who is the hero of your story, to the process, the journey that they can proceed through, not only as they're viewing your content, but as they engage with you further in ways that activate your money model. And the reason we want that money model is so that you can keep creating great content and connecting with an increasingly larger audience. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you want to find more content like this and lots of content related to starting businesses of all different varieties, growing startups, and really thriving as startup founders. Hopefully this has given you some great ideas for how to get started, not only creating great content, but building a money model that can fuel your efforts. Keep going.